Please note, this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal health, mental health, tax, profession advice. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. This podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice. The views expressed in this podcast may not be those of the host or the management. If you are having a mental health emergency, please dial 911.
Hey listeners, discover Mixed Up Clothing, a unique children's wear brand that celebrates the beauty of cultures through vibrant, everyday style. Founded by Sonia Smith Kong, a critical care nurse turned fashion designer and community advocate, Mixed Up Clothing is all about celebrating the beauty of cultures, stories, and traditions that make us who we are. Mixed Up Clothing brings the world to life through colorful, everyday style. From Asian designs to vibrant Caribbean prints, rich textiles of Africa, and trims from everywhere in between, their fashion acts as a mirror, helping every child see themselves in the world around them, reflected with pride. We want everyone to know about this incredible brand. Check them out at mixedupclothing.com and at Mixed Up Clothing on social media channels.
But it's just like there is a lot of anti-Blackness and like Latino and Hispanic households. And we don't talk about it a lot because I think as a collective, we don't want to believe that we are racist in that way because we're minority. And I'm like, absolutely. You know, I'm obviously mixed, you can see, you know, and that's why I say my mom's white Puerto Rican, my dad's black Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Like even like growing up, certain terms that would be used, for example, like they would say my hair is bad hair, pelo malo. And I'm like, okay. And then there's a saying that I didn't realize until I was like literally a few months ago when I looked this up. I'm like, what does this mean? They would say your hair looks like cañiña de mono. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Oh no. Yeah.
I looked it up and it's like monkey poop.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Wow. And it's like, oh my gosh, like that's so derogatory. Like, why would you say that? And it's like, they just pass down because it's a saying, you know, and I don't think they realize how derogatory it is. But a lot of these sayings are like based on classism, racism, you know, the caste system, like all of those things existed in Puerto Rico.
Hello. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 16 of the Multiracialverse Podcast. I am your host, Antonio Fernandez. And today I'm joined by Jocelyn Zambrana, a trauma therapist, EMDR practitioner, and founder of Zaiyari Wellness. Jocelyn was born in Puerto Rico and raised between the island and the mainland U.S., navigating the layered realities of being both black and white Puerto Rican. Her story touches on identity, family, and the tension between cultural pride and assimilation. From growing up in a household where Spanish was protected to confronting colorism and anti-Blackness within her own community, Jocelyn shares how these experiences shaped her understanding of belonging. In this episode, we talk about her time in the military, her path to becoming a therapist, and how trauma, perfectionism, and survival shaped her early life. Jocelyn opens up about how EMDR helped her reconnect with herself and why she believes nervous system regulation is a key to healing. She also shares her thoughts on how the mental health field often overlooks cultural context and what she's doing to change that. This conversation is honest, layered, and full of insight. Jocelyn's approach to therapy is grounded in real-life experience, and her voice is one that challenges the status quo while offering practical tools for growth. Jocelyn, welcome to the Multiracialverse. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's so nice to be here. Your work is kind of different and I really like it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really am excited to hear about your perspective, your work, recording and talking to therapists and counselors and others during Mental Health Awareness Month, which is so important that we continue to smash the stigma around it. Yeah. So let's get into it. I know you said you can talk, so let's hear about your origin story.
It feels like I'm an anime nerd. That almost feels like what is your like dark side that brought you to be a hero? Yeah. So, funny thing is like about my upbringing, like both of my parents are from Puerto Rico. And one of the funny things that people don't understand about Puerto Rico is like the divide there has been still racially, like, from like European and African ancestry mixed with indigenous. And so I always tell people like, my mom is white Puerto Rican and my dad is black Puerto Rican.
Oh, wow. Wow. Wow.
And it's crazy because like being raised in Puerto Rico for a little bit and then coming to America when my mom joined the military and my parents split up was a little bit of like a culture shock almost for me because it's like very different. And after I became an adult and learned about like the mixed kid experience, I was like, technically I'm not mixed kid, I'm Puerto Rican, it's the same. Like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, so that's a little bit about my history.
Yeah, and really quick, I'm going to jump around a little bit with you. What do you mean by it was a little bit different? And are you talking about the American culture way of looking at race versus what you were used to?
It's not even like mostly race specific. It's more like social constructs. And what I mean by that is like in Puerto Rico, the island life is like more laid back. It's not as like high stress, and we're very like family oriented, community oriented. When I learned about psychology and like family styles and all that stuff, like it's like almost every Hispanic family I know is enmeshed or considered enmeshed because it's like you don't have a boyfriend unless I like him, and your brother approves, and so like coming here to America, everything's more individualized. Everybody's so like almost hyper independent. And it was just kind of different seeing. I viewed it almost like as a lot of like selfishness is like promoted versus like collective thinking and like I have my own beef in the psychology world with like, we pathologize like cultures almost.
Oh, that's awesome! Like we'll talk about that for sure. Yeah, I can't wait to hear your thoughts. And so you were born in Puerto Rico and raised. You did school there.
Yeah. So I went to school in Puerto Rico. It was just interesting. I don't ever remember my parents being together, living in the same home per se. My parents split when I was really young. So my mom joined the military. So I had to stay with my grandparents for a little bit. So I remember briefly, like, we came to the U.S. when I was in kinder and then went back to Puerto Rico and I was there first grade. And it was just like a little bit of back and forth. And so like, Spanish is my primary language. Most people look at me and they're like, "Oh, you don't have an accent." And I'm like, well, like you can't make fun of it. I have an accent. So I went to school until first grade, and then officially moved here when my mom was established, like from the military in Central Texas, from like second grade and up. So
right on. And I know this is super naive because I have not been to Puerto Rico yet, but over there in Puerto Rico, people speak Spanish primarily, or is there like in school and stuff like that, it's all taught in Spanish? And
so kind of, right?
Okay.
One of the things that I've noticed that's different in America than Puerto Rico, like in Puerto Rico, they do teach English in schools. You have to learn English in schools.
Okay.
So you'll see a lot of kids that like will have exposure to a different language versus here, it's just like all English. But you do learn two languages, but primarily everything is taught in Spanish. You can go to a college that teaches in English or Spanish, like some private schools are strictly English. And like, this is what I mean about like, there's like very complicated history with the US, with America, because like our native, like we were colonized twice, really.
Yeah, okay.
We speak Spanish because the Spanish took over first. And then, English came in. And so a lot of people from different parts of Latin America say we speak ghetto Spanish because we speak Spanglish. And
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, like part of that is the culture of like colonization of two different, powers. And we speak like a mix of both languages. And you almost see like, it makes me kind of sad. Like Bad Bunny made a song about this recently, like about, slowly we're losing our culture and like our us because of like Americans coming in and like soon enough, like that Spanish will be English, and, the houses that we knew that we called home that were very like humble are now like mansions, and like the American life is like glorified, and slowly but surely we're like losing our culture in a way.
Wow. Yeah. That sucks. It does. It's tough, and so let's talk a little bit about the culture. Starting with when you were young, what did the culture look like in your home around holidays? Obviously you spoke Spanish, but was your mom, being in the military, was there already this, what was she influenced by the white American culture, or was there ability when you were in Puerto Rico to kind of, still have a little bit of a buffer from whiteness being like the supreme thing? Yeah.
So like the biggest thing I can think about is kind of funny. I would say that like American culture kicked in, and as a kid, I enjoyed it because we got 2 Christmases. Like you had the American Christmas, which was December 25th, and then you had the Puerto Rican Christmas, which is really Spanish Christmas, but it's like Tres Reyes with 3 kings. And is like, rooted in the celebration of like Jesus.
And that's in January, right?
January 6th. Yeah. And so like as a kid, I was like, oh yeah, like this is cool. You don't know any different. And then as an adult, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like even like as an adult now, like I want to celebrate 3 Kings with my kids, and I don't really like believe in Christmas like that. And I'm just like, it is kind of like weird trying to figure out like what this identity looks like as an adult, and just the history of it. But one of the things my mom would make us do, especially me and my older brother, because we were born in Puerto Rico, was she didn't allow us to speak English in the house, even when we lived in America.
Wow.
Yeah, like, so my Spanish hasn't left me, even though like for here, we've like lived it for such a long time, but I learned to read in Spanish, I learned to write in Spanish, I learned to speak Spanish, and then at home when I would speak English, my mom was like, I don't understand you. And she would do it on purpose. Like,
oh my gosh.
and I'm grateful for it,
Were you grateful back then though?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And it's like, it's kind of like this reverse, like I didn't learn Spanish growing up. I was assimilated, and I have this shame, and then also some resentment, and you have to work through all those things, as a therapist, you probably hear things like that. And, you had kind of the opposite of where, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's very, that's why I said it's like kind of like a mixed kid experience. And that's like one of the things that we don't talk about enough, especially like in like Latin or Hispanic like households, is how like people belittle or try to gatekeep your Spanish if you speak Spanish, or you're Hispanic if you this, or if you don't do these things, but not realizing like there's such a complex history. Even on my end, I will say the things that I struggle with as an adult is, wow, like I almost feel like a sellout, like knowing that I could live in Puerto Rico and live at home, but I'm like, I don't want to deal with the healthcare issues or the education issues. Like where I'm from in Puerto Rico, there's gang, but most people are like, don't talk about where you're from. Like where I'm from, look at me sideways. And almost it's like, man, I feel like I'm like betraying, my culture and my people by like saying it's not good enough to live there for me and my family. So like, I feel like it's almost like reverse on like my end. And it's like, man, I do like, that is home. And my husband is not like, he's Puerto Rican, but he is born in the States, and he doesn't understand the conflict that I have of like, no, I need to go back home. And he's like, what do you mean? We have our own home. And I'm like, no, like, that's home, like I remember walking on the beaches and like, chasing crabs and catching iguanas as a kid. Like, yes, I did those things. So it's almost like a reverse thing, and it's like almost alienating in and of itself.
Wow. Yeah, that's so tough. And I've talked to several people who are either, first generation Puerto Rican, or their mom might have been born over there and their dad born over here. And there is this interesting struggle of where even within the family is like, well, they're not, you're New Yorican is what they were saying, as they were calling it, right? Which is I think a 60s or 50s term, but that's interesting that, you're right. Like, I think the thing we don't talk about enough, which is there implicitly in a lot of things. It's like colorism, and things like that. Like things like I don't know if there's a particular name for, the things that happen in between individuals, in a family like that, where they're, both Puerto Rican, both parents might be, one was born here, and they still are we're eager to point out differences,
Yeah, absolutely. Like there are certain times where like I mess with my husband and I'm like, oh, you wouldn't understand, like, whether it's like, it falls on deaf ears because he doesn't care anyways. But, there is that, and there is so much colorism. It's kind of, it is, I'm not going to say it's kind of crazy, but it's just like, there is a lot of anti-Blackness and like Latino and Hispanic households. And we don't talk about it a lot because I think as a collective, we don't want to believe that we are racist in that way because we're minority. And I'm like, absolutely. I'm obviously mixed, you can see, and that's why I say my mom's white Puerto Rican, my dad's black Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Like even like growing up, certain terms that would be used, for example, like they would say my hair is bad hair, pelo malo. And I'm like, okay. And then there's a saying that I didn't realize until I was like literally a few months ago when I looked this up. I'm like, what does this mean? They would say your hair looks like cañiña de mono. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Oh no. Yeah.
I looked it up and it's like monkey poop.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And it's like, oh my gosh, like that's so derogatory. Like, why would you say that? I mean, it's like they just pass down because it's a saying, and I don't think they realize how derogatory it is. But a lot of these sayings are like based on classism, racism, the caste system, like all of those things existed in Puerto Rico. And I feel like there's even more of an alienation sometimes with Black and Hispanic Latinos because then the Black community is like, well, you're not Black because you're Hispanic.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, your ancestors didn't go through it. Like, no, we did. Like, like and you have to do like almost like educating on that part. And it's like, it's very... It is very alienating. I could say that mixed kid experience like was so isolating for me growing up because I felt very alone. Like as a kid growing up in my community, I felt closer to people that were Black because where I'm from in Puerto Rico, I'm pretty light skinned.
Okay.
And so I felt closer to people that were Black. And then you have like my mom's side of the family, I'm like, how Black people are. And I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean? Like, what I'm saying? Like, different things like that are embedded in our culture. And it's just like, I felt more at home with that. But then I would get stuff from other friends that were Black that didn't agree that I'm like, connecting with like people else like way, but then I'm not white enough for that. Like, I'm not trying to say that I don't like white people. It's just that I wasn't comfortable, with people that were white or like, and my brother is like your complexion. And it was like reverse growing up. He got made fun of for being white where I'm from, know? And so, and then speaking Spanish. So there's like all these complex things that I didn't know contributed to like my identity growing up. And that's why I felt so like isolated, in my experience.
That's tough, especially for a young female growing up and all those things happening as far as around your identity. It makes me want to ask the question just because we're here I was talking to somebody who was Japanese and Mexican. And they were talking about their experience being in both places, Japan and Mexico. And in one place, they looked Japanese and they didn't speak the language. And then the other place, they spoke Spanish but didn't look, they didn't look Mexican. So what do you think? And maybe you could even lean into a little bit of what you see as a therapist or in your other work or your experience of what is most important to defining our identity, do you think?
Oh man, I love this question because to make it very simple, it boils down to dignity and worth, honestly. One of the biggest things that I kind of have like learned to peek through it all is that we all bleed red.
Yep.
Regardless of where you're from, what you speak, what you do, whatever, like you will live and you will die. You know, we all will suffer, whether you're any race, religion, whatever. And what I've found is that most of the times our identities, or what we think are identities, like culture, language, like, oh, they are a part of us, but they're not us. You know, they're not inherently our core self. And what I think is like your core self is like, what is my dignity and worth as a person outside of these things? And that is the hardest thing to do. You know, sometimes these things that we use as labels to define ourselves, whether it's religion, culture, gender, all of these things are in fact sometimes barriers to discovering who is true self, who is underneath all these layers of trauma, of relationship.
Wow.
Who am I underneath the layers? And that's why I love my work as a trauma therapist.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Now let's just, we're going to keep going with this. If I was someone coming in and was struggling with identity or other things that had built up around me through trauma or other, what types of things, what types of instruction would you give me to find that dignity and worth?
Yeah.
Like, what are some things that I can do even on my own to find that dignity and worth?
Now, this is why I love this, because I'm actually creating an app and a game to teach people this.
Oh, nice. That's amazing. Yeah. Awesome.
Yes.
No, I'll have to have you back when it's done. Yeah.
Look, absolutely. The heart of helping someone find their dignity and worth is, first, you have to discover, what are my values? Like, you have to it's almost like, think about yourself as like a string, but in a yarn, like the ball, right? Yeah, and the ball, like, it's all you, right? But we want to like make that string linear, and like, who am I? What can I look at objectively about myself? What is consistent across these themes? So, for example, one of the things that I value that I didn't know was autonomy. Like, if you ask Jocelyn is a person that I like to pave my own road, no matter where I go. And it could look like rebellion in other places. And it could look, like, you would say, like, you're a rebel. And I'm like, no, just right? Like, when I was raised Christian, so I'm all these questions. And then, like, at work, best employee. But I'm like, I don't like being micromanaged. Don't tell me what to do. Like, tell me I'll get the work done. Trust me to do it. And then I did my own business. And I'm like, oh, like, I love autonomy. I don't like when people make choices for me. And so when you look at yourself objectively and see, what are my consistencies despite race, gender, blah, 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 all these other things, I'm like, oh, that's true self. That's part of my core identity, And I think we try to make it very, very complicated in psychology and like science and all that. But at the end of the day, I think emotions and our reactions to things will show us what our true identity is. Emotions, instead of viewing them as something to be suppressed or dismissed or lean too heavily into, it's more indicative of my compass. Like, what do I like or don't like? Versus, like, it's just this thing, Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's just step back just a little bit. Talk about, you said there was definitely some rough times around identifying when you were, younger teenager. Did it get better as you got older, or was there a point of like an aha moment?
If I'm honest with you, this ties back to like my idea of what is healing.
Yeah.
And I don't think that anything will 100% be healed. I honestly think like my history is a little bit more complex because I had like attachment wounds, like parent wounds, abandonment wounds, in that sense. And so I almost carried that everywhere. So it was like the identity issues that I had was almost like enforcing that belief that I'm like, I'm not acceptable and I'm not lovable and I don't belong, Yeah. And so those are things that exacerbated a belief that was already there. And as I got older, EMDR saved my life, like it really did. Because I had people would be like, oh, you're so pretty, you're smart, you have all these things, you're athletic, you should be happy, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, not true. I also went through a lot of abuse, and like crazy stuff. And there was a point in my life where I did reach like my lowest time in my life, and I didn't want to live, but I was just on autopilot, and I got introduced to EMDR. My therapist at the time was hilarious because I love that she had enough wisdom to take me to refer me out to someone else. I couldn't do this exercise, and she's like, I think you need a trauma therapist, and she referred me. And when I did EMDR is when it started to peel back these layers, and my eyes were opened. And although certain things never changed, I still don't feel like included in a lot of things in my life. The pain isn't heavy anymore, And so the aha moment for me was to face the things that hurt me and regulate my nervous system, because the way the brain works, it just connects all these things. And so you're not feeling this moment, you're feeling this moment and everything that's connected to that moment and that theme. So if something would hurt normally at a 4, it hurts at a 10 every single time.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And so undoing that for me was really the game changer. And, now trauma taints experiences, it taints perception. And now I feel like, man, I can almost like see things more clearly, and my situation hasn't changed, but I'm not hurting the same,
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. It's very vulnerable. When was this was this prior to going into the military that you were introduced to therapy, or was this post military?
I think that's a complicated question because I did therapy a little bit before because I was going through a divorce.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's a good question, is like, what was your first exposure?
Yeah. So, therapy was not even a thing that was like on my radar. Mental health don't exist in Latin communities. Let me be honest. There's very few of us in the therapy space, very few of us minorities in the first place, and very, very few Hispanics. So when I went through a divorce, I just remember that was like the nail in the coffin of like, I'm not lovable, right? Like I'm not acceptable. I'm wrong. And I remember like I just wanted to vent to anybody that would hear me vent. And I came off as needy. I came off as codependent. I came off, and I remember I was talking to this girl, and I was always that friend though, that people came to for advice, which was like the identity that I had was I just give, nobody gives back. And so and I kept venting and venting. And one girl was like, I think you need to go to therapy. And I was like, therapy? What do you mean therapy? Right? Yeah. Like, and I kind of had like brought that up. I moved back to Texas. I was in Florida. I moved back to Texas. And when I came to Texas, I was like, I guess I'll like try to find a therapist. And thank God it was somebody I knew growing up. Like, not in that way. Yeah. Like, I think she was just talking to me, but not like clinically, but she was a therapist. And she was like, you know what? I'm going to refer you to this therapist that like, whatever. So she kind of like warned me up because I knew her. Like I knew this person. Yeah. And I was just like, okay, well, you know what? Like I'll go to this other lady, and oh my gosh, if I'm honest with you, like it was so uncomfortable because when your whole life, you're not used to being heard, being vulnerable. You're told that your emotions are like shut up and shut down. You're invisible. You're the scapegoat. You're all the things, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like all the lights get, and you're like, Dude, what are we doing? And I knew I needed to be there because everything was so daunting. But it took me honestly, like I played with it. Like I wasn't consistent going to sessions, all of the things. Sure. And then it wasn't until after the military. That's why I say it's a little complicated answer because I got in the military and then I had gotten sexually assaulted in the military. And then I was just like, I don't know what to do with all this. Like, it's just too much. And then I was serious. Like, I got serious about going to therapy, and I got serious about like being committed to. I was always a person committed to growth. That never changed. You know, like I would read books on self-help. I would read like since I was like 15. I was always into growth. But it was.
Where do you think that came from? Really quick. Where do you think that came from?
If I'm honest, that's even a funny answer because when you have a parent, and I'm not trying to like talk negatively about my parent.
No, not at all. It's your experience for sure. Yeah.
When you have a parent that like nothing but perfection is good enough. Like I was a straight A student. Any sport I picked up, I wanted to be the best, my identity was perfection. So not only that, but to escape the reality of my household, I escaped in books, and my love for books came through dissociation.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'm the only one in my family that likes to read. So that drive for like, I just want to please and include religion with like, you need to be a certain way to be acceptable, right? That was the message. So every angle that I would get is like, you need to be perfect. You need to be perfect. So my life was a project. Of course, I'm going to be perfect. So the moment I wasn't, and I reached a divorce, that was the first time in my life I felt like a failure. In that way. Yeah. And that's why I say identity is not about the do's and the don'ts and all the things. Like that was an identity that hurt me, that my whole identity was surrounded by achievement, which was a trauma response in the first place. And I failed. So my whole world crumbled.
Wow. Yeah. That's tough. It's so tough. Yeah. And so what advice would you give to individuals who think perfectionism is, well, achievable for one, but who think that is that's a standard that can actually be met?
Yeah. I love working with these clients. These are my favorites. I'm like, that was me.
Yeah.
I would say that is the root to most of your problems. I would say that is the thing you have to look at most. And like, what are the beliefs that lie here? What are the events that lie here? And that will forever keep you in a perpetual cycle of dissatisfaction with yourself, because nothing will ever be good enough. You will meet a goal and it won't be good enough and you won't be satisfied. So you just push the goal further and lie to yourself and think that if I have this goal, then if I meet it, I'm going to be happy. And that doesn't happen. So it feeds into that perpetual cycle of I'm not good enough, because you will never be good enough for perfection. You know? And life is not about being perfect, right? Nobody will ever be perfect. And we project that onto our partners. We project that onto our kids. We project that everywhere we go. And now we're this either critical, right, or unrelatable. So it creates a lot more problems than people think. And on the outside looking in, you're great. You are almost like an alcoholic. You have an addiction and you don't even know it. And you don't even know it, it's doing in your life. But it looks great because society accepts perfection and hustle and stress.
Yes.
Undercover addiction that you will never know about until you start analyzing.
So after high school, you went to the military? What led you to the military? We're just going to backtrack a little bit, gather a little bit more intel, and then.
Yeah, that's a funny story in and of itself too. So like, Hispanic families, like the older males usually like,
Yes.
I'm biased. Okay?
Yeah. It's all good.
So my older brother, he wasn't even a year apart from me. Like we're Irish twins. We're 10 days the same age.
Oh, wow.
And so, he went to UT, Austin. And when it was my turn to go to school, it was like, oh, we don't have the money. Like, what do you mean? Like, and they were using my mom, they were using the GI Bill for him. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And I wanted to go to like a Bible school, like, vocational school. I wanted to, they didn't agree with that. And they're like, oh, you need to go to the community college. And I'm like, well, if you paid attention to anything, you would know that I graduated with 20 college credit hours. Community college is not going to do anything for me. I need to go to university. But again, like my mom didn't go to college, so those things are kind of like, whoop, went over her head.
Yeah.
Like, my brother was the whole like identity based on like go to UT. And so like, it wasn't even helpful, all the things he would tell me. So I was like, I don't know what to do. So I left and I went to Florida, to get my like bachelor's degree. And, like halfway through. And when I was, that's when I went through my divorce. I moved back to Texas, finished my, bachelor's. Well, almost right when I was finishing, I decided, like I want to go to the National Guard.
What were you studying, by the way?
Oh, criminology.
At that time. Okay. Criminology. Okay.
Yeah. I studied criminology because I didn't realize what it was nowadays, but the consistent string that tied everything along, I like to solve problems. I just like to solve. I was like, oh, I like counting. No, I don't like the counting. I like the complex things that I like to fix. Like, oh, I like therapy. The only reason I like therapy is because I'm like, oh, people are complex. Let's do this. Like,
yes, yeah. It's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
But I was almost graduated, and I joined the National Guard because I wanted to work in child services, CPS. Okay. And so I was like, oh, I don't want to go to the military full time, so I'll just do that, and I'll go to CPS. And then when I was graduating AIT and all of my training is when I decided to apply to grad school for social work. And that's a whole other funny story in itself. But yeah, that's what led me there. So I was doing National Guard, working for CPS, going to grad school, all these heavy things all at the same time. It was great for my nervous system.
For that overachiever, right? You know,
great. I look back and I'm like, gosh.
And so you were in the National Guard. Did you have to do service? I know they do usually like a weekend a month, but any time were you actively called to help out? I know a lot of times they're helped. You were in an area where there's a lot of natural disasters around hurricanes and things like that. Were you ever called for any of that?
Yeah. So what's the funny thing is that I wanted to, and then the moment that I got called to something, I got pregnant. And so I was so mad. Yeah, I was so mad. I almost felt like the military probably wasn't for me. All these bad things happened. Well, pregnancy wasn't bad, but you know, like all these things happened because I had got married to my husband, and I forgot what it was. I was going to go to Cuba, and that's a whole nother thing. I really I feel discriminated against because of the sexual assault, and they try to like hold me and didn't let me go to Cuba, but it was somebody pulling rank on like, oh, you didn't ask me permission type thing. So I was like on the brunt end of it. And so if I didn't go to Cuba, and then when I got called for COVID, I was like 6 months pregnant, and I was like, I am not going to go to no COVID stuff, you know? So like, and then my second child with a birth control child. So like, whenever we got called again, I got pregnant. I'm like, what is going on? Because I'm athletic. Like, I love it. People don't like going to the field. I'm like, oh, I love going to the field. Put me in the great outdoors. And like, like, give me in a place I don't have to think. I'm just a robot, you know? Like, yeah.
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so was the point of your assault, was that the point of that you left the military?
No, so that happened early on. That's what was crazy. So that happened when I was in the training portion of things.
Like in boot camp or?
Yes.
Oh, like wow,
in that early portion. And so when I got out, actually, I didn't know, this is when I started noticing really about mental health. When I started taking it seriously, because like I had gained a lot of, like, I wasn't big, but I gained a lot of weight.
Sure.
I was active, but I was like not socializing anymore. I wasn't reading books like I used to like to. I was like always trying to stay busy. I couldn't be still, you know. And that actually, I went to officer school because I did want to go active duty when I finished grad school as a clinician. And I passed everything except for height and weight. And I passed the PT test, and they're like, oh, like. And anyways, that whole thing is discriminatory in and of itself, because they used to tape women's hips, and who has hips?
Yeah.
You know? And so I told myself, you know what? Like, if I'm just going to be in the system that I'm working my butt off for, and I'm a civilian, and so I'm making time out during the week to work out, stay fit, do all these things. And like, even when I was pregnant, like I was still doing all those things at the risk of losing my child, you know, like, I'm not going to rank up because you want to tape my hips, but I can out PT people, and my GT scores were super high. Like, you know what? Then maybe this isn't for me. And so part of me leaving the military, the choice was, I'm not going to rank up. Like, I don't feel like I'm going to be valued anyways. All these negative things happen in the military. Women aren't protected. I'm not even gonna lie.
No, not at all.
Not protected in the military. If anything, we're discriminated against in very covert ways. It's just, after I opened my eyes and I was like, no, this is not for me.
Yeah. And when you were, I'm just gonna, this question just thinking about the idea of, I'm kind of a pacifist, so I'm kind of, what did you, like, what was the end goal for you in the military? Was it being an officer? Was it actually seeing battle or any?
So for me, this is another like thing is like as a kid, the military was normal for me growing up. My mom was in the military. My stepdad was in the military. And again, the history of Puerto Rico, why they used us was for their wars. And so a lot of people to get out of poverty in Puerto Rico would join the military. And that's exactly what would happen. So in my family, I joined because I'm like, well, my parents can't pay for college in that way. I want to go to grad school. There's a way to pay for it. I'm fit. I'm athletic. So why not? I like to do all the things and camp and you know what? Do it.
Yeah.
And after the fact is when I was like, I was a behavioral health specialist when I went in.
And really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so then I wanted to be a clinical officer is like when you get your clinical license and all that stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I wanted to do active duty so that I could help the soldiers, you know, that went through trauma and all these other things. Because as a clinician, you don't go out in the battlefield like that, right?
Yeah.
You have to, if you're traveling with a unit or doing whatever, but like your primary goal isn't to go out there and shoot. That's not your job, you know?
Yeah.
And so, then when I got into the military and realized all the red tape behind mental health and how you're almost punished for having mental health and being honest about where you're at, and it's really not helping, but actually like more hurting people systemically, I was like, I can't really get behind this, you know? And still like I have people from my unit like, hey, we still need an officer, you know, mental health guy, like, and I'm just like,
yeah.
Because again, that rebel in me, the autonomy in me, I'm like, I don't care who my president is. If you ask me to do something that's unethical, I will not do it.
Yeah. And was there a different way? So did you already had your advanced degree in social work at this time when you were?
No, when I was in the National Guard, I was going to school for it.
Oh,
so
okay.
The military is the only place in the world that you can do stuff without a license. So I was, as a behavioral health specialist, you operate under a officer's license, basically. So they have the liability. And it was a blessing in disguise because I got to do clinical things. I got to have experience. I could do assessments. I can like do all the things, right? And help without having a license, which is great. But again, you start seeing the other side of the coin and you're like, oh, this is more political than anything. This is not even helping the soldiers, really. You help some, but it's not really that type of help that I want to give, you know, to people. It's very limited.
Was there a lot of limitations to what you learned to be able to put that into practice in the military because of those political constraints?
Yeah. I mean, like the mission of the military is, are you fit for duty? And are you fit for duty means, can you deploy? You know? And if you're on any type of medications in that way and dependent on stuff, well, what if we're stuck out in the middle of war and you don't have access to your medication? You're going to lose your crap. You know what I'm saying? Are you going to be able to?
Yeah, for sure.
And so a lot of people have this perception of the military and they speak negatively about things. But I'm like, you have to think about it. Or like, our mission is not civilian. We are mission first. Can you carry a body? Can you shoot to protect somebody or carry out the mission? And if you can't do those things, then you need to get out.
Wow.
So
I mean, it's something as a civilian. I don't think it's, you know, I don't think about things like that. That's no, totally,
most people don't. Most people don't. There's this whole thing about like being transgender in the military, like all the things. But you know, I don't have anything against like people that are transgender or anything. I'm like, but as I have to shower with other people naked. You know, I have to sleep with people, you know, we have to share everything. Like it's very intimate. And the type of bond that you develop as a soldier with other soldiers, you will never get that in the civilian world. Like, I don't care what anybody says. There's a different type of trauma bonding that happens in the military, you know? Civilians don't think in that way. It's, oh, that's discriminatory. I'm like, yeah, a lot of things in the military are discriminatory because less than 1% serve for a reason. Like, one, you don't qualify. Second, like all of the things. And again, you're a soldier first. They always said, mission first, soldier always. What does that mean? You know your role, but you're always at the end of the day a soldier. So you better be able to do what you have to do and make hard decisions when we need you to, you know? And as someone who respects their autonomy.
And so you discharge or leave? Like what did it look like when you left? Was it considered a discharge or is there another?
I served my full term of my contract. It was an honorable discharge. You know, that was done, and then No, they still call me to this day. Like, do you want to be enlist? No. So it was honorable discharge. And yeah, it was kind of like almost like a wake up, lift off my shoulders. There's so many logistical things behind being in the military. Like, I can't travel without permission. I can't do anything without permission. Like, it's that invasive and extensive, like your property. You really are.
Yeah. And so when did you start to move towards, when did your journey start to take you towards your own practice or to practice outside of the military? Share that.
Yeah, it kind of fell in my lap. It was kind of weird. I had to leave CPS because COVID was happening and they were not protecting us in terms of like, they're like, still go see kids. And I'm like, I have a 7-month-old baby. And like, anyways, I don't want to expose, all the uncertainties.
Yeah.
So like I had to leave that. And then I went and did an internship at McLean's Children's Hospital to finish like my last year of grad school with like internships and all that stuff. So as I was looking as a clinician, you have to have a supervisor for at least 2 years before you can practice independently. So I was like looking for clinicians that were being supervisees. And I wasn't even looking for employment. I was just like, I just, need to find a supervisor and I'll figure out the rest later. So the supervisor that contacted me, she was like, I'm actually looking to like expand and, maybe do group. Would you be interested? And I was like, oh, sure. And what's crazy is like my first experience as a clinician, like outside the military and doing just basic assessments and stuff was forensic therapy. So people that are court ordered to do therapy, veterans that were mandated to do therapy because some type of federal law was broken, like all these other things, or people that were civilians that were like, had federal like charges and they were court ordered to do therapy. So that was how that started.
And do you think, at any point, where did you start to see that there was a line, I would say, like, as far as like your background, how did that help you with the individuals you were seeing, your Puerto Rican background, that culture? How did that play into it? Because my wife's studying right now. I don't think she's studying to do more clinical stuff, but she's always, she's of European descent, and she's always like, it's like psychology just started as like these eugenicists and this white supremacist thing. So when did you first start noticing that when you were starting to practice?
So check this out. This is what's funny. Not funny, but it is.
Sure.
You can only laugh your way through nonsense. So as I was doing forensic work, who do you think was the majority of the population?
Yeah.
Black and Hispanics. Like, and I was just like, whew, okay. And so seeing that and knowing how people like, and again, this was ironic because I wasn't looking for forensic. My criminology was my bachelor's. CPS has a mix of like both civilian and criminal like involved, right? And you have to understand systems and families. And before I'm a clinician, I'm a social worker. So we look at big picture, like all of that looking in. How does that affect a person? And every single person that I was working with, nobody wakes up and says, I want to commit a crime and ruin the rest of my life. Nobody says that. I don't know of many parents that I worked with that did CPS. Who were the majority of them? Right? That want to wake up and do these things. Right. And so then I started looking from the outside in, and I love being a clinician because it gives you the deeper, the why. Right.
Yeah.
And almost every single one of them, poverty, needs, being stigmatized. So all these systemic things that have happened to our people are contributing to these things. And we're criminalized because we're trying to survive.
Yeah.
That is, I'm like, it's a systemic
it's a vicious cycle. I mean,
correct.
Correct. Yeah.
And then when I started seeing not only that's why people commit crimes perhaps, or certain things and systemic problems. But then I started looking at, I had a client that I was like, oh, this person's schizophrenic. And I'm like, okay. And when I like get to the heart of it, could this person have been schizophrenic? Perhaps. But a lot of what this person was saying was like, oh, like, I hear God, or like, I had this spiritual encounter,
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of things in the psychology world, if you hear or see things other people don't hear or see, that is really spiritual. A lot of Hispanic communities are very deeply spiritual. You're pathologizing them with a mental health thing. And I was like, my inquisitive self, my rebellious self.
No, that's awesome.
Really? I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. You're telling me that if I'm a very deeply spiritual person myself, and I was raised Christian. I guess you would call me a rebel because I don't like a lot. I would say I'm Christian because I believe in Yah and Yeshua, right? But
yeah.
I don't agree with religion and the way that it's done anyways, and all the things and all the people we marginalize for being gay, for being this, when we all said all the stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't agree with any of that. But as a person who is deeply rooted and spiritually and was raised in Loíza, which is very spiritual as well, you're telling me if I say I hear God, if I had like a vision, which is a big thing, or like a dream, which is a big thing in like Hispanic communities, that I may have a mental health disorder. Perhaps what if that's a spiritual practice? Like, hold on, wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? And so I had to take a step back and like, I had to analyze this whole system. And I'm like, this is interesting because what we're doing is we're creating a system where people are pathologized for cultural things, even. When I studied PTSD, you know what's so funny? Becoming trauma specialized, I read the diagnostic criteria for people, you know, that meet diagnosis for PTSD. And I was like, everybody I know is like this.
Yeah. And if they weren't after COVID, they are, right? You know.
but what's crazy is like the people that I know are like this because the people that I know have experienced traumatic things that have caused them to be like this, right? And so it's like, if a whole group of people are like this, is it a mental health disorder or is it a product of something? Like, it's one of those things that I'm like, look, like I play the game because you have to play the game. But it makes me question. And then you study intergenerational trauma and you're just like, whew, okay, things get pissed down to the genes, like from habitual things and like perhaps even like memory. They call that like, and it's just all a crazy cycle. And so yes, she's correct. Like it's all rooted deeply in like this Eurocentric view of who said that these were the criteria that should be met for what a person should be normal or not. Who got to decide that?
Yeah, for sure. Jeez.
Do you see how like that makes me so annoyed and upset because I'm like, wait, my normal looks very different than someone else's normal. So we decided to get together and decide this is what normal should be.
Yeah.
And if you don't, if you have these things, you have a mental health disorder. And I've come to realize that as a clinician, it's very controversial. I tell people, I don't diagnose people in the first 6 months. I was like, and a lot of mental health disorders, what if I told you that the diagnosis didn't matter? What if I told you that we just need to work on finding core self, regulating your nervous system, and now we can see, do you have a mental health disorder?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that there's not validity to any of what they're saying. There is research behind and there is stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying. And I don't want to discredit the community, but I will say that we do need to look at the roots of how this was created. And the whole system just needs to be revamped. So
yeah. That little job of doing that, right? That small task of So is that kind of what pushed you into your own practice?
Yeah, absolutely. One, because like there's again a lot of stuff that people don't see on the back end on becoming a therapist and how we are also exploited by the system with use and like, you know, junior clinicians and all this stuff. And I just decided that I don't want to live the 9-to-5 stressful life anymore when I figured out about stress and nervous system regulation and how a lot of stress leads to all of these disorders that we have in physical, not just mental, but physical effects.
Yeah.
I don't want to live the stressed life anymore. Like, I'm okay with working 20 hours a week and paying my bills. You know, I am creating the app to make residual income, but I don't want to live that life anymore. I don't want to be a part of that system. I don't. And I've seen the effects of it in a positive way by staying away from that.
And besides doing, that as far as like kind of forging your own path in a way that is, you know, mentally and physically healthy for you, along with the way that you were raised, and the things you went through as a child, and your assault, how do you balance all those to bring your best self to your practice on a daily basis?
So essentially, I have like I call them like sacred times for myself. I've learned to be in tune with my body, doing somatic work, and learning when my body tells me I'm doing too much, right?
Yeah.
It's really about centering self. It's finding. So essentially, what I've learned to do is like, I've learned that I'm the person that needs to like reset myself throughout the day. And so after like I see clients, my lunch, like I work out or go take a walk, and reset my body and my rhythm, because, you're absorbing people's stuff, you're helping, and, it can get overwhelming.
I bet. Yeah.
I love what I do. My mornings, I center myself. I spend some time in meditation and quiet, and, I pray, I do what I need to do for myself. So there's certain sacred practices that I have. When my kids are home, I make sure that I have a strong boundary of like, being a mom is crazy. Like, even though like I work 20 hours a week, I'm building an app, there's notes, treatment plans, everything else that you got to do. So you don't just really work 20 hours a week. I see 20 clients a week,
Wow.
And so then like when the kids are home, I have a very hard rule for my sacred space is nobody bothers me when I'm in the bathroom, when I'm taking a shower. When I sit down to eat my meal, don't ask me to do anything for you. Like, that's okay.
No, that's great.
I just protect certain times of my days so that like I can reset. And when I find myself getting overstimulated, because I get overstimulated easily, I have PTSD, by the way. So like, I go ground myself and I go outside and, put my feet in the dirt, literally just sit out there and just center myself. And I find that finding your pockets versus trying to find the ideal is what helps keep you centered and regulated.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because sometimes and when you don't find the ideal, then it just sets off so many other things. How important are boundaries? It's just what you talk. We don't. I don't think we talk about them enough. I think it's being talked about more for sure.
Yeah.
But
what are boundaries in Hispanic? I remember the first time.
Is there a clinical term for boundary?
No, there really isn't. Yeah. I think boundaries is very interesting, and I love it because I come from an enmeshed family. So what is the boundary?
Yeah.
What do you mean no? And I didn't realize how much of like people pleasing and like lack of boundaries came from wanting to be accepted and not like step on toes and not be seen as anything less than perfect. I didn't learn about boundaries till therapy, and my therapist was like, "You need to learn some boundaries," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And my husband will tell you I'm the queen of boundaries now. So people have this idea that boundaries are about controlling other people. And it's really not. Boundaries is understanding my need, naming my need, and protecting my need, right? Even if the person doesn't want to protect it, that's where the boundary comes from. It is, well, I respect your ability to tell me no and not to agree with my need, but this is what I'm going to do as a result.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Right. And essentially like boundaries really has saved my marriage. Like boundaries has saved my sanity as a mom. Boundaries, it may look like a harsh on the other end, but it's like, no, like I'm looking at the bigger picture and I can't keep going like this, And so boundaries really preserve versus create that hard, line of, I don't love you. I can love you and have a boundary. I can love you and tell you no. I can. Actually, I'm better for it because I can reset myself, because I can have my needs not trampled over all the time. And I'm either resenting you or being mad at you without telling you about it, or sacrificing myself. And now that's contributing to me feeling depressed. Right. So people don't realize that life is nothing but choices of what is the best of worst. Ideal. It's not ideal. I don't want to tell my kids I can't meet your need right now. I don't want to tell them that. I don't want to tell my husband I don't have the capacity for you right now.
Yeah, totally. Not at all. Yeah. Especially after all you've unlearned, right?
Exactly. But I realized that what's the cost if I don't? The cost is if I continue to do this thing, I'm not going to want to be with you. The cost is if I constantly say yes to my kids and no to me, I lose myself in the process, and I will be emotionally, mentally exhausted, and I won't be able to give you my best. Right?
Yeah.
What's the cost?
Wow.
And so you're just weighing costs. That's all life is.
Yeah. It's a give and take, like an exchange.
Exactly.
You think it's important for BIPOC individuals to see BIPOC therapists?
Oof. Okay, so
because we know you all therapists have this big book, right?
Both of my therapists were white.
Okay.
It wasn't until now that I realized I may have made different type of progress if I had someone that was like me.
Yeah.
I don't want to disqualify the people, that I honor them and I love the role that they played in my life. But there is a different type of resonance when I have somebody who knows what I'm talking about, with somebody with the same lived experience. And so I will say some people don't want that, right? Some people do.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to find someone that you can relate to that is open. If anything, when people ask me like, what should I look for in a therapist? I was like, ask them one question and it'll be everything you need to know. Have you done your own work?
Yeah.
Because you can speak to me from a place of theoretical knowledge. That's great. That doesn't transform my life.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So, there are certain things I can call out in certain people. I'm like, oh, I know what that is. Right. And it's just like, and you're able to call it out because you've been there. Right. Some clinicians will say you're projecting, that's transference or countertransference, whatever the heck. And I'm like, say whatever you want to do, but the clients see the results. So there is a difference, there is a level of like humility that has to come to the table when we're working with people because you have power dynamics. People look to me and I'm like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Some of my clients are like, and I'm like, nope, we're going to find out.
Give me some work.
Right? Like that's what we're here to do. And there are times we problem solve, but it is important. I wouldn't put as much emphasis on it as have you done your own work?
Yeah. And how do you, I guess, balance all the work you've done, the knowledge you have, in your relationships with both your husband or your children or other people that are close to you, where you're living what you preach, basically?
Oh yeah. So that's one thing that like hit me the hardest, like becoming a therapist, was I didn't realize how much PTSD affected me until like my marriage and certain things were like exacerbated,
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I was explosive. I was more like, I need to leave, and so I would be quick to like leave an argument if I was uncomfortable or if I did something and I'm like, I couldn't set a boundary, I'll leave. I'm like, look, I just need space. Bye. Right. And so I came to a position in my life where I was working with their clients. And I was like, man, these are people that would be like the worst. People have the worst perceptions of them. And if I can extend them the same, loving grace to provide a safe space for them to grow, why should I not? How much more for people that love me and that are close to me? And because I didn't want to be a hypocrite, because I didn't want to like just be like a person of subject matter expert, and I wanted to live what I preach, like primary example would be my husband. Like, like I had to extend, grace. I had to like not be critical of him. I had to put it there. Actually putting my therapist hat on helped me understand. And I'm like, let me get out of the wife role and look in from a different perspective. And some of my friends or even him would tell you, like sometimes that is a weakness, but I have to do it in order for me not to be like offended as heavily or, take certain things personally that when in reality it's not a me thing, and it did help me have more compassion. My son is super emotionally dysregulated. I'm like, I tell my husband, I'm like, oh, he has symptoms of ADHD. He was like, don't say that. He's too little. And I'm like, no, he's 4. Emotional dysregulation is a thing,
Yeah.
And it really triggers me, especially when PTSD is up here. And I'm just like, this is bothering me, the noise, And I have to look at him with the eyes of like, I'm his only safe space. But I sometimes have to have boundaries because I'm like, if I stay here, I'm going to lose it. And I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to do that. So I have to leave and I can't meet your need. Like, I'm sorry. Give me a few minutes. And I go recoup myself and then come back. And I'm like, hey, I apologize if I need to as a parent, right?
Yeah.
Or if, and he'll ask, Mommy, I want a hug. And I will not deny that of him, There is a fine line. Understanding, again, this perfection thing. I'm like, I don't care what anybody says, how healthy you are emotionally. You will traumatize your kid one way or another. You will.
Yeah.
Because the brain is naturally wired to remember all the bad things. That's what it's naturally wired to do. So no matter what you do, all the million good things that your kid will remember that one time. They would.
Yeah.
I have to give myself that grace, And
that's awesome.
People actually helped me apply it to myself, and this is the people that I care about.
Yeah, that's so tough because it's automatic. I know as a parent, automatic from all the trauma that I've had in dysfunctional family, trying to set a boundary with the kids, man, that's, it's tough. And as a recovering people pleaser, I say, so, which is tough. So yeah. So I'm going to take a little bit of a detour here really quick to say, you talked a little bit about it in the beginning, this complicated relationship you had with your culture in the idea of what would you carry forward so that your children understand their background, their grandparents, the homeland, which is still, it's so funny because I have to watch myself because I'll say the homeland as almost as it's disconnected from the United States of America, but it's like, it is, but what are you doing with your children and with your family to carry forward your cultural roots?
Yeah, that's something I was telling my husband about. Like, we don't celebrate Christmas in that way because we don't believe in like the way that it, all the things behind Christmas, and nobody, nothing against anybody that celebrates it. But I was telling my husband, I'm like, I really want to start celebrating Tres Reyes so that our kids can start connecting with that. And also like, I speak Spanish to my kids. Like, now my daughter's 2, my son is 4. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Like I'm starting to introduce them to like numbers and words, and like my nicknames, like for my son is Bebe, and for my daughter is Chiquita, so there is verbiage that I use. And also, as long as my dad lives in Puerto Rico and I have sisters in Puerto Rico, I told my husband, like, every few years, like I do want to take them back home. And it's not even just to expose them to like the culture. Really, it is also, there's a different type of humility. I think when you go back home and you realize, oh, like the water and the light are cut off randomly, and we don't have that here. There's air conditioning in the States, and we don't have that here. And it's like, and I want to show them that they're not above anybody, also certain things. It's a different type of humility that I want to show my kids. I also tell my son, I'm like, you're a Puerto Rican boy. He's like, I'm not a Puerto Rican boy. He tells me his name. I'm like, no, and I'm like, no, you're Puerto Rican. So I try to teach them, different things like that. And my mom still speaks Spanish to them, of course, the whole, like, she told me, you speak Spanish to them. I'm like, I know, I do.
Now, are your parents both on the mainland here, or are your dad back in Puerto
Rico? I just got back from Puerto Rico 2 weeks ago. So like,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'll make it a thing that at least every other year, until like my grandparents pass, like I'll take care of them. But my grandparents go back and forth between Florida and Puerto Rico, so I try to visit them once a year, and I try to visit my father once a year, whether he comes there or I go there. I go back home. It's home. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there such thing? And I asked the person I was speaking to the other day around mental health, being a mental health therapist. is there such thing as success, or what does success look like for your work?
Again, very controversial therapist. I tell all my clients, my goal is that you don't need me or anybody else after we see each other, after our work together, only if something dire happens. And so I don't measure success by like, oh, is a person cured from their symptoms or whatever it is. I measure success as in, am I giving this person the tools to not be dependent on me, to make their own choices, to know themselves enough and have the right tools to be able to regulate themselves and understand how to analyze, their interactions to where they can identify what my need is and where I need to set a boundary and where the me interferes with the we and vice versa. Right.
Yeah.
That's what I view success as a therapist, not are there clinical measures coming down, And this person learned to be vulnerable if they've never learned to be vulnerable. And I don't think we measure everybody at the same standard, but I'm not going to expect someone who's never been vulnerable to be completely open with everybody all the time. But can they be vulnerable with the right people? You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I view success.
No, that's awesome. It's just an interesting idea as far as, the concept of success through therapy. You probably do you see people who might be, I guess, have an addiction to therapy, or just do therapy for therapy, or
some people, but not really. Like all sorts of different people on like my caseload. I have some perfectionists. I have some people who are chronic people pleasers. I have some people who are really defensive, need to learn vulnerability. And so I have a variety, which I like, and that's why I say they're not all the same.
Yeah.
They can all have depression, but don't look the same for everybody.
No.
know?
Yeah. And what is your hope for the mental health space in the future, and goals for yourself and your practice?
Yeah. Honestly, mental health as a whole, I would boil it down to people having a regulated nervous system. I wish people would stop looking at a diagnosis, right?
Yeah.
As the answer to justify why I am the way I am, because you weren't born that way. Unless you have ADHD or that's neurological, that's different. And even then you can always learn skills. Your brain has neuroplasticity, which means the same way that I learned a skill, I can unlearn it and learn a new one and replace it, So that's my goal overall for mental health. To become so cliche nowadays in terms of everybody has mental health. Yes. Mental health is just an explanation of how our bodies and minds react to life, but it's not who you are. This is why I say, who are you beneath the layers? You're not depression. You're not anxiety. You're not ADHD. Who are you beneath these things, right?
Yeah.
And yes, they impact you. Yes, they may change how you perceive things or how function through life, but who are you beneath that? Who are you without this title? So that's my hope, is that people view it differently, honestly.
And what are some things that individuals can do to avoid the things that you may have seen or feel or experienced that cause the most nervous system deregulation? Since it sounds like it's an important part of what you practice.
Connections and boundaries. It all boils down to that. It all boils down to who are you allowing in your space, right? How are you articulating your needs? Are you, right? In a healthy way? Not, right? Do you need to set a boundary? And grief. People don't talk about grief enough.
Yes.
You cannot change someone, and some things you will have to grieve. And the more you run from grief, the more it will chase you down and tear you up. Grief is not when people die. Grief is somebody didn't meet an expectation. Someone wasn't who I thought they were going to be for me. I have to transition into a different thing of my life. I have to grieve who I was. I have to grieve people that have left, not just death. And I tell people, grief almost is like the hand you need to hold through your journey in healing. That's what we run from.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. And do you feel that because my wife was telling me about something in what she was studying about prolonged grief disorder, and she was actually reading this to me, and I was like, that just makes no sense that they can put this time frame on your grief and then say that you're grieving beyond the year point or whatever, and there's now you're, and I think grief, to me, I did ask the other day, if you feel that is grief similar across loss of, say, for instance, like loss of a relationship as it is for like loss of a loved one. Like, say, for instance, you're with your boyfriend or girlfriend or your partner or whatever, and that breaks up. Is that grief similar? Can they even be compared to that of like losing someone, or the grief of losing a pet?
They're different. Loss is loss, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the loss that matters, because guess what? If I don't have a connection with a person that has a title in my life, that loss will not mean something. And in fact, it may cause more confusion. If I lost a parent who I never had a relationship with, what am I losing? What does grief look like here, right?
Yeah.
But if I have a strong connection with a loved one that was a boyfriend or girlfriend, and this was the person who, for the first time in my life, saw me and I lost them, how was that going to impact me? Right. And so when I look at grief, I don't look at the event. In the same way of trauma, I don't look at the event. I look at what meaning did this touch? Right. How did this person experience this event, and how did it change their perception of self, of others, of connection? It all boils down to connection. This is why I say, like, we are innate creatures of connection. We are born into connection. You will die connected, whether you like it or not, whether you're introvert or an extrovert or isolated. You were born for connection, and connections and the quality of connections are what cause these things inside of us.
Yeah, and I think as just as a layperson, it's easy for myself, at least from my own experience, when I do not think about it too deeply, dismiss somebody's grief if it's over. Oh yeah, you had this raven that was in your backyard, and it, whatever, like it's easy for us to just look at the external objective context and not look at those things that you're talking about. That connection is so important. We're like all connected. Like it's amazing,
Correct.
Yeah, you have given me a lot of yourself. I really, really appreciate it. Like, there's been some amazing, beautiful answers, responses, and I'm sure you're an amazing therapist to your and healer to the people that you work with. Let's go a little bit wider lens here. What's your recipe for world peace?
A regulated nervous system. I'm so honest. Why? Because if I have a regulated nervous system, my reality is not tainted by my past. If I have a regulated nervous system, I can come to you from a position of understanding and problem solving versus defense and defense. Yeah. If I have a regulated nervous system, I'm able to experience life in its fullness. I'm able to be present. I'm able to enjoy present, even though I go through things. If I have a regulated nervous system, I have a realistic perception of what I'm going through, and it's not tainted by trauma. So if your nervous system is regulated, you can be a better person for yourself and other people.
Wow. And I just gotta ask, just curious about, is there I mean, it's, to me, I'm thinking that most people have somewhat a dysregulated nervous system, correct, in our society.
Absolutely. Yes. This is what I say. Like, about trauma, I learned about a dysregulated nervous system, and I'm like, this is the key. If people could do this thing, we can. If you are run a lot by stress and trauma, it activates more of your lizard brain, your instinctive, your like
amygdala. I hear that all the time.
Like your reactive state. But once that's regulated, I had a client tell me the other day, man, after doing EMDR with you, I feel like my frontal lobe is activated. Like I feel like I can think clearly. Yes, things hurt, but it's not the same. Like I'm telling you, it saved my life. Like, I'm like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, like I am able to come and think clearly, articulate myself better. I'm able to pinpoint exactly the problem versus being so overfilled with like rage and anger or sadness that I can't even tell you what I'm talking about, or what I'm feeling, but I know what the issue is. I just can't get it out or be able to like say it in a way that helps you understand. Like, it's crazy. Like everything that stress and trauma does to our system and our functioning and our perceptions. Crazy. And our health.
Who are some people you look up to out there that are doing work in spaces that you study actively?
So the world that I love is like somatics and EMDR. I'm so biased. So the people that are in those fields, right?
Sure.
Again, like it's almost monopolized. So again, it has its nuances, but I can't deny the fact that all the groundbreaking research, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, Peter Levine, Christine Shapiro, the one who invented EMDR, like my mentor with EMDR studied under her, was one of her friends. I admire her deeply. Yeah. Christine Sprouse, like that's who my mentor is. Like those are the type of people that I look up to because they've seen the chaos, they've seen the nonsense, they've been in the field, they know all the things and are still putting in the work. And they're not perfect, but this has been groundbreaking. I feel like most people, they still get crap from the space because of like mental health should look this way, right?
Yeah.
No. I'm in love with the field, and somatic work is different than neurological work than EMDR, and the wisdom of the body. This is ancient.
Yeah.
Peter Levine didn't discover this. He got this from like native tribes and like studying nature and different things. And it's like, there's wisdom in our bodies. Let's stop intellectualizing a lot of the things that we naturally have answers inside of us. I'm telling you, a lot of the practice that I do with my client, it's all body based and EMDR. Like I rarely direct them. We do this thing and it's like, oh, what does that tell you about your situation? This, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it's your body and your mind have so much wisdom within. We've been taught to intellectualize and we've been taught to try to problem solve our way through everything. And sometimes you just have to feel your way through healing.
Love it.
Yeah.
And following intuition, your body's intuition, what does that feel like, look like when someone says, should I trust this feeling I have?
So this is where I like enhance the person's like connect with true self, right?
Yeah.
Let's connect with true self because this is a very complicated answer because trauma messes with your gut, your gut instinct. This is what I mean. Like my gut instinct said this person isn't good for me. Oh, maybe you have a trigger that you don't know about when with your interaction with this person. It's not really the person. And you're projecting an experience that you had because that's all the brain knows how to do. And so you're really self-sabotaging the situation and adding meaning to someone's gesture or saying or something that has nothing to do with the situation or how they're interpreting it. Have you ever been like, that's not what I meant. That's not what like an argument.
Yeah.
A lot of projection going on, right?
Yeah.
And so this is why I do the trauma work where it's like, okay, let's undo this thing. And now let's see what's underneath. I always tell my clients, don't make a difficult decision. Sit on it. Let's work on it first. And then, because and they're like, oh no, like now it's a decision. This one question will tell you everything you need to know about the decisions that you're making. Is it rooted in fear or is it rooted in wisdom? Your nervous system is a fear-based system.
Yeah.
So that is what I ask my clients. Is that a fear-based decision? Well, yeah. Okay. So let's tap into wisdom.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom. Where can people find you, listen to you, see you?
Oh, yes.
Please share.
I have a website, ZaiyariWellness.com. You can find me on social media handles by searching Zaiyari. There may be my logo or maybe my face. I'm trying to make this platform to be people-centered and not me-centered. Again, I'm very about empowering others. So I just want people to learn how to tap into that inner wisdom to the body's wisdom. Because I think everybody has it, honestly. So, yeah.
And are you centered in Texas where you're at to only practice there, or are you able to practice?
Yeah, so currently I am doing Texas only, and I do telehealth only because I have little ones, and it's the best way to be accessible. But there's this thing going on. It's called the Interstate Compact, where like legislature is being passed for us to be able to practice interstate lines. So hopefully Texas can jump on that. They're having like a meeting about that this year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Then we'll be able to practice everywhere. But honestly, if I'm honest, like my heart is making my app so that like people aren't like, oh, how can I access you? It's like, no. Like I'm gonna put everything I know here and then you play it. I call it the game of your life, right? And
that's awesome.
To, like learn about yourself and learn about your life and tap into the wisdom and learn all the things and analyze your relationships in this space. So you don't need me. Like just go play.
That sounds like a blast. I can't wait. Yeah. And I can't wait to talk about, we'll get together again and talk about it when it comes out. Can't wait to see it. And yeah, I'm thrilled. Like you brought it today. Yeah, you're right. You could talk, but it's everything is wisdom that I really enjoyed hearing. And like I said, I'm sure you're awesome with your practice and you practice what you preach. And thank you so much for giving me your time today.
Absolutely. Honored to be here.
Yeah.
I just love spreading the knowledge of like mental health and trauma and healing. It's all a part of the package. Like you can build a life worth living. It's possible. It lives inside of you. Just got to tap in.
Awesome. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
This episode of the Multiracial Verse podcast is brought to you by Eviton Couture, a brand born from a powerful vision and a deep connection to heritage. Founded by Shinnecock brothers Jason Tech King and Wayon Moon Smith, Eviton represents resilience and pride. From handmade tie-dye to wellness-focused athletic wear, each piece is crafted with intention and positivity, smudged with sage for good vibes, and delivered to you with love. Join the Eviton family on their journey of empowerment and inspiration. Hit up Moon on Instagram at Eviton_KS. That is native spelled backwards _KS to view product and place an order. Eviton Couture. Feel the spirit of resilience in every stitch. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Huge shout out to my friend Johannes Skoda for mixing and creating the intro music and DJ Kazam for the track.